Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Faria. Joining me on the program now is Ernest Hillaire. He is the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Lucia. He's also the Minister for Tourism, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture, and Information. He's joining me now to speak about the Citizenship by Investment Program, the CIP in St. Lucia, as it's called in St. Lucia, the economic migration program that so many countries in the region have. Right now, citizenship by investment programs are facing serious scrutiny from the EU, Canada, and the United States, raising concerns about the security issues of the program. Regional countries saying that their due diligence is stronger even than those first world countries who also have economic migration programs. Also in St. Lucia, the opposition making certain charges against the government, saying that their decision making in the program has been reckless and could jeopardize the situation for other islands in the Caribbean who also have citizenship by investment programs. The minister is the Deputy Prime Minister is joining me now to address some of those issues and bring some clarity to the situation. St. Lucia not signing on to a joint agreement of OECS countries and the EU regarding the CBI program. Welcome to the program, Deputy Prime Minister.
Hi, and certainly a pleasure to be on your program, and I'm looking forward to our conversation and to ensure that we can at least clear up some of the issues that you've pointed out. So thank you so very much.
It's my pleasure to have you on. Now, let's start with St. Lucia is one of the islands that has done very well with citizenship by investment. But you have got a joint agreement, a joint protocol of the countries in the OECS who do have the program and the EU. St. Lucia did not sign on. Let's start with why you didn't.
All right. Let me first of all start off by saying that St. Lucia supports the action of the other four countries in signing the MOA. And we believe it will actually augur well for the industry. If we can come together as a region to set common standards and have a common platform from which we all operate, I think is good for the region, and St. Lucia supports it. St. Lucia supported all of the provisions of the MOU. There's only one clause we did not support, and we made it very clear we could not sign it at this time. And that had to do with the pricing clause, where it was required that all the islands establish a minimum investment level of 200,000 US. And our reason for doing so was very simple. We said, look, if you look at some of the other islands, they've all built roads, hospitals, they've built schools, they've built houses. St. Lucia never had the chance to do so because we the New West program. And in a sense, we only starting to reach that point where we can structure options that bring those kinds of direct benefits to our people. We've just signed a number of agreements with developers for two housing developments and for a national infrastructure improvement program. And we said all those agreements were signed on the basis of the existing prices. The developers were required to go and raise financing to start the financing of the projects and for them to be able to recoup their money through the Citizenship by Investment program. For us now to say to them, we're changing the prices on you, that whereas we had an established 100,000 K as the minimum for donation, and to change it now to 200,000 K, we thought we were going to be exposing ourselves to litigation and other contractual issues. And we said basically, if we could have a grandfather clause that would allow us to sign it with an understanding that we would fulfill our contracts. Of course, that was not really possible. So we decided, look, at this point, we could not sign the agreement. Not that we disagree with the concept of the MOA, but at this time, for obvious legal and contractual reasons, we could not just raise the price on all the developers that we had signed contracts with. So I think we should be very clear that St. Lucia supports the regional collaboration and the need for us to have some minimum standards. I will share with you that in 2015, when we launched our Citizenship by Investment program, October 2015, our legislation had provisions that actually goes beyond what's in the MOA. So, for example, in 2015, we established the minimum price at 200,000 K. What is being proposed now, of course, the government changed in 2021 and the new government changed the program. We also had an annual quota of 500 applications. We had a provision that the main applicant had to have a net worth of 3 million US dollars. We had a provision that everyone who is approved and rejected had to be published publicly. We had a provision that all marketing agents, promoters, authorized agents had to be licensed and publicly announced, or what we call gazetted. They had to be gazetted. We had, a number of provisions in 2015 in the legislation that St. Lucia had. And of course, that was changed, like I said, with the change of government in 2021. So we have been very active and very supportive of a well-regulated industry. And therefore, you can understand we are very comfortable with the provisions of the MOA. And in a sense, we support the intention to regulate the industry more to avoid some of the challenges that we face. We're also very clear in our mind that any successful citizenship by investment program must rest on the foundation of a rigid and robust due diligence process. And this is why St. Lucia has gone to exceptional lengths to make sure that our due diligence is very robust and rigid. We are criticizing St. Lucia for taking too long to approve applications, but we insist on doing it this way to ensure that there's rigorous examination of every applicant to the St. Lucia program. So there may be questions asked, why didn't St. Lucia sign? Well, we support it. We could not sign at this time because of the pricing clause and not being exempted from it.
So how is this going to work out? Is there any fallout that is expected with St. Lucia not signing because of the situation you face with agreements that you have already made with developers that is contrary to what the protocol demands that you do if you sign on to it?
I mean,
I know I had your opposition leader on my program, and he raised some concerns about that, worrying that, well, saying that if St. Lucia does not sign on, that you could bring trouble to the rest of the region, the other countries with CBI, and also suggesting that your prime minister was hauled off to Brussels to have his wrist slapped because St. Lucia is not signing on to this. And tell me what's the fallout there? Anything expected to happen?
well, I mean, if you know the leader of the opposition, St. Lucia, you would understand that is typical of him. I mean, he says one thing one minute, says he never said it the other minute. He's recorded as having said things, and then he denies he ever said it, even if you play the tape for him to show him that he just said it. So he says anything, anywhere, anytime to suit convenience. So let's put that aside for now. The talk about the prime minister being summoned to Europe is totally untrue. Anybody that knows how business of government is conducted, nobody summons a prime minister anywhere, really. I mean, if there is an issue by any other country or any international organization, there are diplomatic circles within which those exchanges take place. What really happened was that there was a lot of talk, a lot of publications stating that the region was about to lose its visa-free entry to the EU, and it was prevalent. And in fact, some felt that the agreement had to be signed, or else we'll be losing such access. The prime minister is very clear in his mind that he had had meetings with the Europeans, with the Americans, with the UK, and he had never got the sense that such was the case. And he said very clearly that he's going to go to Europe face to face and ascertain whether those claims that were being bandied about, expressed by opposition leaders and accusations against countries, had any validity. And he organized a trip with the unit, and they did go to Brussels to meet with the European Parliament, to meet with the European Commission, to understand what was being proposed by Europe, what were the concerns of Europe, and therefore how best we can work together to ensure that the concerns are met, and whether there was any real threat of any country losing its visa-free regime. We are satisfied that, look, the Europeans are very concerned about the programs, about the possibility of abuse of the programs, about the possibility of the programs being used by persons who are not of the best intent. And therefore, as is the broader migration issue in Europe, there are concerns about the programs throughout, not just in the Caribbean, throughout, including their own members. Of course, the European Union Commission, the Council first, then the Commission, has proposed that they want to include abuses abuses and consequences thereof of citizen by investment programs as a basis for which they can suspend and eventually revoke, if nothing is done to correct the problems, visa-free access. And you understand why they would want to do that. In effect, they are saying, we offer you visa-free access, but if it is that we find out that there are threats to our national security, or there is an abuse of that visa-free regime by persons who use those citizenship by investment program, we want to be able to activate the process of suspension. And that's understandable. That's
And that
perfectly understandable.
will become an agreement, that will become a condition that will be established as a condition.
No, I mean there is right now the Schengen area visa free regime in place,
Mhm.
and there are actions that can trigger the mechanism for suspension exists right now. What the European Commission wants to do is to broaden that trigger mechanism, to broaden it. So they are adding new reasons why they can trigger the mechanism to suspend. The citizenship investment programs is one of the new measures that they are adding. So they already have trigger effects existing, and what they want to do is to broaden it. And one of
So
the new
so
areas
now
of concern.
violations, breaches, or violations as far as the EU is concerned under any country's citizenship by investment program, they want to include that as a reason why they would suspend any country's visa-free
Right.
access.
So, yeah, so from our understanding, there are there's a whole process. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a process. If for some reason the Europeans believe they have evidence that there is some action that threatens the European Union national security or has an effect on them by persons who have visa-free access, it gives them the reason for them to trigger the mechanism. So, for example, if there is a significant increase in people seeking asylum by persons from those countries, it can trigger the mechanism. When it triggers the mechanism, it will start a process. The process is they will notify the country of the abuses that are taking place and ask them, let us do something about it. And if they cannot satisfactorily do something about it, it will then result in action from the European Union. So basically, before, abuses of those nature did not trigger that mechanism for discussion on suspension of the visa-free access. It is now included as one of the triggers that can take place. And can I tell you, we totally understand the sentiments and concerns of our international partners. Countries are concerned about migration and abuses that arise out of the visa-free regimes and other migratory concerns that they have. So, and it's fair. And we have to work with them to deal with those issues. We have to work with them. We have to be able to give them the assurance that our programs are well managed, our due diligence is robust, is rigid. We have to collaborate with them to make sure that there are no abuses. It's a responsibility we have as countries that enjoy visa free access. And for us, as St. Lucia, we are committed to working with all our international stakeholders, whether the US, whether the EU, whether the UK, to make sure that their concerns are addressed. And we think it is fair and reasonable that we work with them to address those concerns. And as a region, if we can work together to put in place a common approach to satisfy them that we're doing all that, I think it will augur well for the region.
So, Prime Minister Philip Pierre's visit to Brussels, how did that go? Was he able to sit
Well,
down with
from
the
all
EU
indications,
Parliament? Yeah.
yes, he did have some very good meetings. He got a thorough understanding and he was able to brief all of us as to the extent of the concern of the European Unions. He also had an opportunity to reinforce the work that we do, how we do it, and the value of the citizenship by investment programs to our national development, not just St. Lucia, but all the islands, and to explain to them the importance of the programs. And we all agree that we will work together to ensure that the concerns of all parties recognize and observe. So for us, that's really important. And if we just forget all the noise from the opposition and from other persons who don't support the program, the point is these programs have helped these small islands that have huge debt, that find it increasingly difficult to borrow money to finance the infrastructural development, to deal with their social development challenges, to build roads, houses, hospitals. These islands face serious economic challenges. Developmental financing is not available like before. Grant financing is not available like before. And therefore, those programs bring in substantial revenue to the islands. In St. Lucia, it is not as significant as the other islands. It's about 8% of our national revenue. And some of the other islands is a lot more than that. But these programs are important, and we have to tell all our partners how important those programs are. And for us, likewise, having put forward our case that those programs are important, it's for us now to listen to their concerns and to see how we can satisfy their concerns and address them. So I have a lot of confidence that as a region, we will continue to work together. The best way to solve our problems and our challenges is to use a coordinated regional approach. And that is important. We will do so. And St. Lucia will always be in the forefront of ensuring that we have a regional approach to addressing our challenges.
So with St. Lucia not signing on to the protocol, what happens next? Was that also addressed during your Prime Minister's visit to Brussels? Is it you have not signed on to a protocol that everyone else has? It cannot go without any sort of consequence.
Well, ironically, it never came up. It was not even an issue, really.
So no one is caring that you have not signed on to the protocols? That seems a little odd. I mean, what was the point of the protocol if what's the point? Because I'm sitting here wondering, what's the point of the protocol if countries can sign or not sign and there are no consequences or repercussions?
Well, it all depends on why you're doing it. Why you're doing it. As far as we're concerned, it's an attempt for us to come together as a region to try to put in place those provisions. And like I said to you, that's a sovereign decision by each state to sign on to this collective action. St. Lucia already implements every single provision of the MOU except the pricing one. Accept it. Every single provision. But it's a sovereign right as an independent country whether we want to sign on to any understanding. It's a non-binding agreement. And therefore, we have a right to decide when we're going to sign it. And if we sign it, we support it, like I said, except for the pricing. But let me just also say something. I think it's important sometimes when you listen to the leader of the opposition and other persons. Our legislation of 2015 provided for a very well-regulated program in St. Lucia. It was the leader of the opposition who removed those provisions from the legislation in St. Lucia, removed it. The price in 2016, when the Labour Party was in government, was 200,000 K. He reduced it to 100,000. Now, in the MOA, the call is to bring it back to 200,000. We were there in 2016 already. Think about that. We already had a minimum of 200,000 K in 2016, and it was the leader of the opposition who removed it. So
And
we don't have a difficulty
what
with
is your minimum?
200,000 K.
What is your minimum now? Because one of the things your
It's
opposition leader
100,000. It's 100. It's
100,000,
100,000.
because your opposition leader
That
was
he
also
reduced it to 100,000.
floating an 80,000 figure as well, which he was not able to explain very well where it fit in, because he talked about 100,000
Yeah.
and 80,000. What's the 80,000 about? Is there an
Yeah.
$80,000
So
figure
the
attached?
donation. Yeah, the donation was 200,000. He reduced it to 100,000. We prefer it at 200,000. And like I said, because of the contractual arrangements we have, we cannot bring 200,000 at this point in time. At this point in time, because of the contractual arrangements we have in place. I mean, I heard he's spoken about 80,000, 70,000, and you're saying that there's underselling, whatnot. We can only control what we are in control of in St. Lucia. If an agent in Dubai or any other part of the world is offering citizenship for 80,000, I can only tell you one thing. The moment that is brought to our attention that somebody is advertising 80,000, we will make it very clear to them that we don't want to do business with them because our regulated price is 100,000. So if somebody is offering it for less, we want to have no business with them. None at all.
Now,
Now,
this is the narrative I'm on with Ernest Hillaire, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Investment and Tourism in St. Lucia, discussing his country's Citizenship My Investment program, which has come under scrutiny recently as St. Lucia abstains from signing a joint protocol along with other OECS countries and the EU on the management of CBI programs in the region. More when we come back.